If you plan on working in your lifetime, which most people do, there's a good chance that you will need a work reference. In this video, I'm going to go over some etiquette and also common courtesies about asking for a reference. Now, over the years, I've provided hundreds of references for former colleagues and students. After writing so many different reference letters, I have become attuned to different ways that people not only respectfully ask for references, but also cringe-worthy habits that some people have when trying to get a reference. Today, I'm going to provide you with 7 different tips about asking for a reference. Let's begin. I'm going to start with the first one, asking before putting someone down as a reference. Now, this may seem like an obvious one, but believe it or not, this happens more than you would think it should happen. Now, the thing about this is, although the obvious reason you just don't do that just isn't, you should get someone's permission first. The other thing is a lot of times, because of how much email that most people get, it's hard to know what to look out for. So if you give that person a heads up, a lot of times they'll start watching for that email or start watching for that call. And so not only is it a common courtesy to say, hey, would you mind doing this for me? But also, that just gives them the heads up and they'll start looking for it. A lot of times, I won't even write the reference if someone has not requested it from me or asked me. Tip number 2. When I started writing references years ago, I don't remember students actually sending their current resumes, but then it seemed like one day several students started that and they started sending their resumes, and after that, usually they'd send them after I'd accept the request. And I found this incredibly helpful with writing the reference. I think it's equally important to let the individual who you're asking for the reference what your goal is or your objective is. Let them know why and what you're applying for. Let them know what traits about yourself you value, your strengths, and maybe even sometimes your weaknesses. I've had so many students over the years that even though I remember their faces and even kind of what kind of student they were, I might not fully always remember all the details of every strength they had or every little detail about what they did. So reminders are always helpful, and that just shows that you're actually very prepared, and it seemed like some of my best students were the ones that would send those type of things. Letting people know your strengths, accomplishments, and values can go a long way to help the reference writer give you a very colorful and just overall great reference. Number 3, give the individual an escape clause. Now, this one may sound a little strange, but giving an individual an escape clause is basically when you're letting the person know that you will not be mad if they decline, that you'll be understanding. Sometimes people do feel obligated to write a reference letter, but you're not trying to manipulate or obligate them into something. Remember that the reference writer does not have to write your reference. This is a favor, and you're asking them to do a favor for you. So an escape clause just lets them know that you're understanding, which is a great characteristic overall. Saying things like, I know you're busy and I understand if you cannot do this, but it just means so much to me. This also shows humility and that you're understanding how valuable their time and their reference is. Number 4, remind once if needed, but move on after that. Now, if you formally or officially ask the individual if they could write your reference, that's kind of your initial. And then if for some reason, stuff gets sent to them, it's understandable that sometimes people forget or things get lost in the shuffle. But after that, if you have to remind them a second or third time, that's really maybe them trying to say that they don't want to give the reference. It is understandable if someone misses a call or an email requesting for the reference. And if you have officially asked, though, it's understandable if that happens. But usually references are lower on the totem pole for most people. But for you, you understand how dire that is, and you don't have time to waste. And so if someone decides that they don't want to tell you no, you might want to just move on and try to see who else you can find to do your reference. And sometimes this can be a passive-aggressive way or an avoidant way for an individual to say no. Now, I don't think this is professional, and I wouldn't recommend this, but some people just want to avoid the conflict altogether, and so they will just either ignore or just avoid the situation altogether and just say yes and then move on. But it's actually You know, it's actually a good thing from your side if you just move on quickly, because the thing is you may be avoiding a crappy or poor reference. Number 5, be understanding if the individual decides not to give you a reference. Now, I think there is some nobility in being able to tell an individual, no, I can't do that for you. But sometimes that just doesn't happen. And sometimes it's simply that people are busy. There may not be any malicious intent behind it. Sometimes people may feel guilty that they have to say no, or sometimes maybe even people forget. But the key is, don't burn bridges. You will likely also be in a situation at one time in your life or the other when you are on the other end of giving references. This will make a lot of sense. Number 6, ask for references from professionals. Now, this may seem like an obvious one, but you'd be surprised at how many people give their family members and their friends, things like that. Try to ask for managers, bosses, teachers, and people who are above your current position. Do not use family members, and try to avoid friends if you can. Number 7, write a thank you email or note. Now, this goes a long way, because a lot of times if you don't get that from the other side, it may feel like you just they used you and then moved on. And that's kind of an overly dramatic way to explain it, but basically it's just a way of showing that you're grateful, you appreciate them, and it's a respectful way to show them that you really value who they are and their reference. Well, this is it. This concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this is helpful. Please make sure to give this a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel for more nursing tips, career ideas, diagnosis made easy, medication explained, and so much more. Stay tuned for more videos.